computers are hot. Oh! They are quite literally electricity to heat converters that happen to do some useful stuff along the way. Keeping personal computers cool in the beginning was easy. They didn't really do enough stuff to generate much heat. In fact, if you've ever taken a look at the CPU in an older game console, remember everything with a CPU is technically a computer, they didn't have any coolers of any kind. And this black material that encapsulates the circuitry of the CPU, yeah, that's plastic. They didn't even make these things out of a material that was good at dissipating heat. Processors just made so little heat that they didn't really have to care. Eventually, we crammed so many bits and bobs into those boopers that they started getting a bit toasty. And that's when we started to put hunks of metal on them to absorb the extra heat and keep our chips from transitioning into liquids. A little metal heatsink plus about a fart's worth of moving air was good enough for a while, but eventually history repeated itself and we once again found ourselves with too much heat and not enough cold. To solve this, we harnessed the power of electricity to generate several farts per second in the form of fans that forcibly remove heat from the heatsink, heat which we then transferred into the atmosphere, a historically good place to dump stuff that we don't know what to do with. Somewhere along the way, we replaced plastic epoxy-based chips with modern silicon dies that have an IHS on top. IHS stands for Integrated Heat Spreader, and it's that big metal lid on CPUs. It works like a mini heatsink that sits between the circuitry of the CPU and the main heatsink. It's mostly there to make it easier to install a CPU cooler without breaking the die of the CPU, but it can technically also be used to sink just enough heat to be able to keep a computer on and running for like a minute or so. You super duper should not do this, especially on modern high-end CPUs like we have today. But if you need to pop the thing on for a sec to check that your motherboard can still boot to the BIOS or something, I don't think you need to repent for that one. But what if we took that concept to the extreme? What if we had the absolute smallest of heat sinks? How long could we keep the computer on with it? What would it take to keep it cool? How small could you go without overheating? What if the heatsink was so small that it didn't exist? Remember how I said that the IHS is like a mini heatsink? But what if it became the heatsink? Can we use the IHS as the only heatsink on a CPU without overheating? And most importantly, could we then game on it? To explore this hypothetical, we need to understand the relationship between the size of a heatsink and the volume of room temperature air needed per second to pass through it in order to keep a CPU cool. Now, I don't know the first fucking thing about fluid and thermodynamics, but I imagine the graph for something like that would look something like this. And this is where we're going. A wild ride straight to the bottom where the required airflow reaches infinity. A good CPU cooler strikes a balance of size, performance, and volume. You can overcome just about any heat load with a big enough cooler, and it'll be real quiet or even silent if you go big enough. But if you have to run a smaller cooler and fan due to space constraints, you'll be limited by the amount of air that you can run through it. In order to remove enough heat, you'll need to move a fuckload of air, which usually means listening to this. So this cooler can absolutely outperform this one, as long as you don't have ears that mind bleeding. Our theory is good. Our science is sound. The only thing we need now is funding. From the sponsor of today's video, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is where you go if you want to learn back-end web development in Python, SQL, or Go. But you don't want to learn anything, you stinky gamer. Your brain is fried from Lootbox, Hot Sunny Michael, whoever that is. Boot.dev has interactive coding lessons that feel more like a game than work. If at any point you get stuck, you can summon Boots, their AI bear wizard, who doesn't just spoon-feed you answers like other LLMs would. Instead, it's trained to use the Socratic method to help lead you to figuring out your problems on your own. This is how you learn programming skills that actually stick, just as Socrates intended. They've got XP, levels, achievements, leaderboards, a Discord community, all designed to keep you engaged with achievable goals and activities that help keep you going. And if none of this is your thing and you'd rather watch this, there's a 30-day refund policy, no questions asked. Go to Boot.dev and use my code Bringus Studios to get a whopping 25% off your first year with an annual plan. This is the HP Envy. That one. It has an Intel i7-6700K CPU, which at one point was known as one of the best CPUs around, especially for gaming. Despite its performance pedigree, HP used a fairly small cooler on it, and I will be using no cooler on it. I won't spoil my cooling method just yet, but I will spoil the results. It crashed a lot. I quickly came to the conclusion that a 6700K might have been a bit ambitious, so this is the Dell Optiplex 3040. This one has a much milder Pentium G4400 CPU and Rust, and for those reasons, it's going to be a much better fit. Okay, so disregard the absolute hell screeching of the birds in the distance over there. Out of pretty much just curiosity, I want to see how long this thing can even run with the fan unplugged. So we're not going to take the heatsink off yet, we're just going to, remove its life source. Prime 95 is not running, so we will be under minimal load, although this is Windows 10 on a dual core, so even just kind of existing, we have like 55% load. Okay, exited Steam, and now it's a little more reasonable. So now at this point, we're just gonna do this, and then we're gonna keep an eye on this number, and we'll see what it gets to. Also, I'm unplugging the exhaust fan. Okay, this is taking a lot longer to do anything than I anticipated. I mean, we are outside in the wilderness. It's only like 72 degrees, maybe. So, I'm gonna start Prime 95. All right, torture test going in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, we are beginning to approach dangerous territory. Part of me thought that it might be able to just dissipate it into the environment completely passively. That's pretty warm. I do not think that's gonna be the case. Honestly, if I took the fan completely off, it might help a little bit with that. All right, we're at 90°C, I think I'll call that. So with no fans running, it took 5 minutes to get to a dangerous temperature. And honestly, that's pretty good. Completely passive cooling on the piece of crap little default Dell heatsink. I wonder how much I could get the temperature to go down just by blowing on it. 1 degree, 2 degrees. That's what that mouth do. The CPU actually managed to idle pretty well at about 65 degrees Celsius completely passively after stopping all loads. That gives me hope that it might actually be able to stay awake during its inevitable torture. I'm gonna count the CPU as sufficiently cooled if it manages to stay under 100 degrees Celsius in game. 100°C is the temperature where most CPUs are gonna start facing permanent damage. Our game will be Half-Life 2 because it's a good match for the all-powerful Intel HD 510 integrated graphics. The fan has been placed. Now let's see if we can actually even boot into Windows before this thing combusts. Oh, I guess I should probably turn the fan on. Testing processor fan. No, don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay, that's pretty hot. It's really pissy about the fan. Hold on, I have an idea. What if we just plug in the fan? Now that we're booting Windows, we can just... Oh, no. There's no way it's not at like 100 degrees right now. Yep, there it is. Okay, so a little Ryobi portable fan. I'm gonna call that a fail. Yeah, oh, wait, hold on, 94. I mean, the fact that we're running Windows right now with no heatsink at all is kind of impressive. Oh, wait, hold on, look at that, we're hanging on now, sort of. I think there was like some Windows initialization stuff that was going on. Now it's kind of calming down a little bit. Okay, this is sustainable. Down to 68, hold on, this might actually work. As you can see, we are actually running entirely with no CPU cooler. Just a portable work fan. We have reached 51 degrees Celsius. It's actually idling around here pretty well. Hold on, can we play Half-Life 2? No, never mind, you cannot. Wait, 97, 96, that's not 100. Does this count? Wait, why are his lips not moving? What? Okay, but it is in-game. Oh geez, what is happening? Oh, hold on, I left the ear rape mod on again. So I mean, we are in-game, but it is pinned at 100 degrees Celsius. I don't think I can call that a win. Okay, so let's end the torture. Folks, we're gonna need a bigger fan. Okay. Bigger fan. So it's bigger, but I don't actually know how much more powerful. Okay, it's not bad. It's definitely faster than the Ryobi fan. Okay, I do not know if this counts as a win. Sometimes we do still hit 100 degrees Celsius, but like if we go in here, boom, 99. What if we like really crouch into a corner? I saw 92, 90. See, this is okay. It all kind of just depends on how much power the CPU wants to draw at any given moment. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that computers are electricity to heat converters. You can tell just how much by looking at the TDP of your CPU. This number gets kind of fuzzy sometimes because more recently it's become like a marketing figure, so they say it's higher or lower based on vibes and shit. but when accurate, TDP measures the maximum amount of watts that your CPU is capable of drawing. And since all forms of energy are eventually released as heat, every electrical watt that your CPU uses becomes a watt of heat that you now have to get rid of. So a CPU with a 90 watt TDP running at full tilt is going to be much more challenging to cool than one that only consumes 50 watts. That's why our Pentium G4400 is playing ball at all here, and the i7-6700K was not. It's just too difficult to remove heat from that thing before its safety protocol kicks in. Luckily, the Pentium is such a piece of dual-core doo-doo that it is managing to hold on. But at what cost?
If we go out into the more demanding part of the game, 21 watts, 23 watts, temperature starts going up. So I don't know, I'm torn. Cause like it's pretty good. It's just not enough. Too many watts, too many wattos. Would it help to adjust the angle? No.
We're gonna need a bigger fan.
Do you like my leaf blower mount? Can you tell it was homemade? To get the wood, I had to cut down that tree. It's okay, I like having the wood more than I liked having the tree. Okay, so she's like a 9-speed automatic or something. Oh, actually 3, close enough. But we're gonna start out on speed 1. Oh crap, go gadget brick. Okay, how about now? Aha!
This is the Bauer 120 volt AC 12 amp leaf blower. It's capable of passing gas at up to 115 miles per hour and can move 800 cubic feet of fart per minute. It's the most powerful fart generator that they happen to have at Harbor Freight. And if we want anything more powerful, we're gonna have to go back to the Xbox 360 wind tunnel, which isn't a real place.
I don't really think it's working. In fact, this might be worse. Actually, wait a minute. Now that we're in game, hold on. 95, 92, 97. I'm hearing a lot of numbers, but I'm not hearing 100. Okay, well, how's about we try a level 2? Oh, no. We need another brick. With the power of 3 bricks, level 2. Whoa. We're doing it! We're actually doing it! Look at that, 77! It's playable! It's so playable! 71 degrees, it ain't breaking a sweat! I want to see level 3! Level 3! Yeah! Oh, no, you don't! I need another brick! Okay, you know, I gotta say, I'm a little underwhelmed with level 3. This is kinda worse.
And you know, while we're here listening to this, it once again reminds me of this, which I hate to hear in my home. That's why I have offloaded the official Bringus Studios Discord Minecraft server to Tesseract Hosting, who I promised to give a shout out to or else they would kill my cat. And Tony needs to live to see another day. They build their servers just for gaming with an emphasis on super low ping and reliable performance. Their team connects with your community for S-tier support, and you only pay for the resources that you use when you use them. TesseractHosting.com. Also, their Discord is here too. And I think technically, legally, I need to say I was compensated for this message. Okay, so we may have hit a limit with dumping air straight onto the IHS, but it technically does work, which is great. But can we get colder? The reason that a proper CPU cooler works so well is because it has a lot of surface area. The IHS alone has about 8.4 square centimeters of surface area, and even a cooler just as basic as the stock one, well, it has a hell of a lot more than that. Heat can only transfer out when it's making contact with the air. So the more we have metal that's doing that, the more opportunities we give heat to leave. Obviously, we can stick metal with more surface area onto the IHS to functionally increase its surface area. That's what you do when you install a regular cooler, but we can also increase the surface area by removing material. Look at these two objects. They have the same dimensions, but one is triggering your trypophobia. The Series X looking one is about 10% smaller in volume than the other from being full of holes, but it also has about 21% more surface area because of the walls of those holes. Each of those walls creates a new opportunity for heat to transfer out of the CPU, opportunities that weren't there before. And yeah, losing volume and thus mass is suboptimal, since we need that raw mass to sink our heat into. But if we lose some mass to get more surface area, would it let us remove heat from the IHS more effectively?
And am I going to drill 49 tiny holes into this CPU to find out? No. No, I couldn't keep a straight face. Yeah, I am. Are you kidding me? Oh, dude, this thing is so freaking hot right now. I'm starting to have doubts that this thing is going to work after I'm done with it. This is but a minor setback. Dude, not gonna lie, this thing is actually, oh, this thing is kind of beautiful. Look at that orange. I'm starting to think everybody should do this. Yeah, there's like no chance this thing still works. Good luck, bud. Power, boot, cooling. Uh-oh. Hey, welcome back. Okay, we're freshly booted up, about 40 degrees Celsius. Honestly, that is really solid. Okay, here's the, hold on. Get away from that for a second so I can actually hear myself. Okay, so over there, we're going to have that run the Half-Life 2 Lost Coast video benchmark. That is gonna stress test our CPU and our GPU, which is currently also our CPU. After that is done, we will compare it to a stock G4400. This is not the exact same one, so I know there's like silicon lottery stuff to take into consideration, but we're also taking into consideration that I don't give a shit. That's the plan. We'll see what happens. No contest. No, not even close. You, get out of my socket. What abysmal performance. Never show your face here again, dude. But you, my son, the people's champion. That looked like it was supposed to be like a 40 degrees Celsius difference? Not even close, not even close.
But something seems off. When you're looking at the temperatures, the drilled CPU suplexes the regular one into a coma for sure. But what is going on with the power draw? The drilled CPU uses way less power than the stock one. I mean, I didn't run it on a different power profile or anything. And hold on, the clock speeds are the same for both tests too. CPU usage is about the same. The results are almost identical as well. So everything else being equal, why is the stock CPU drawing more power? You'd think any respectable CPU would reduce its power consumption when faced with the burning fires of hell, but I think there's actually something kind of weird happening. Now, this is the part where I play this clip again. Now, I don't know the first fucking thing about fluid and thermodynamics. What I think is happening here is something called sub-threshold leakage. And it happens to the best of us. Generally speaking, when CPUs get really, really hot, the tiny transistors inside don't fully shut off anymore when they're supposed to. They start leaking electrical current like a worn-out faucet. And the hotter it gets, the worse the leak becomes at an exponential rate. All that electricity that you're leaking still counts as electricity that you're using. That's why the stock CPU is sucking down 20 to 30 watts while performing pretty much exactly the same as the drilled one that's sipping around 10 or so. To check that this is actually a thing and that I'm not crazy, I went back and unearthed the stock loser CPU and put it back in its natural habitat. And a test run with all identical settings, but with proper cooling this time, showed results far closer to that of the drilled CPU when it came to power draw and performance. So it's not that drilling 49 holes into a CPU magically makes it more efficient. It's that running your CPU up to the temperature of the sun may have some unintended side effects.
What an upset. Dude, we had the theory, we had the science, but I didn't have faith. But the data don't lie. Dude, this thing is incredible. All right, I hereby recommend that everybody goes and drills 49 holes into their CPU. We dropped tens of degrees. What else will get you performance gains like that, folks? But for real, I'm actually so beyond impressed right now. This was like actually just a physical manifestation of a shitpost, and I cannot believe that it did that well. It could probably be pushed harder, to be honest. And then that also kind of begs the question, because it did so well, could we then replicate this with like that i7 6700 and then make that actually viable to game on with no cooler? Probably not. But maybe. And as much as I'd love to subject myself to more CPU drilling and subject my neighbors to more leaf blower ambience, I think we're gonna call it right there for today, folks. Remember, this is your last month to get a Bringus mouse mat. They're not gonna be here forever. In fact, they're gonna go like the wind, never to be seen again. Get your retro big picture, get your workbench. Link in description. Please, for the love of God, buy my mouse mat. This renovation is so expensive. Oh, actually, let me show you how that's all going. Boom. Stairs. They didn't tell me I can walk on them yet, but we're gonna walk on the stairs. I love being closer to spider web. There's a door up here now. No door. There's no doorknob. I am famously anti-doorknob. Look at that. Well, that's a mighty fine studio in there. Also, they broke my garage door opener all the way around. Oh, whoops. Left this open all night. This is still a disaster zone. And look at this. I did something kind of sneaky. So they cut the whole wall here so they could put the door in. And I look over and I'm like, wow, that's a really big gap between my walls. And this was not here last time. I don't know where this came from. But this was totally empty. So I got all this Cat 6. I wired it all the way over there and then all the way above the door frame over down there. And I was like, okay, I want to do this once. I never want to do this again. So I wired 6 Cat 6A receptacles. There will be 6 plugs here. 6 plugs down there. And the goofy ass part is that these are gonna be connected together. So in theory, the internet is gonna come somewhere from around here. And then from there, it's gonna go into my router and switch. 6 cables coming from the switch. They're all gonna have to go and run to this Ethernet ports here. And then all that's gonna do is make it so that we have Ethernet on the other side of the room over there. So I basically just put 6 Ethernet extension cables in my wall. Is that the way you people do this stuff? I don't know. I've never renovated a Bringus Studio. Anyway, this is all very highly expensive. Please buy my mouse mats or else where the studio will be the street. Also showed these ants who's boss yesterday. Anyway, that's it. See ya.